Breaking the impasse since the breakdown of the second North Korea-U.S. summit in Hanoi in February, nuclear officials from the two sides are expected to meet for the first time later today in Stockholm for preliminary talks, which will be followed by an official working-level talks on Saturday, October 5th. What can we expect from this meeting? Progress? And if so, do we expect both sides to have brought new proposals for each other? Now, joining me live via Skype from Washington, D.C. for some analysis is Scott Snyder, Senior Fellow at Council on Foreign Relations. Scott, great to see you again.
Hi, good to be here.
Now, before I head into the talks, what we can expect from the talks and what we expect each side to have brought to the table, I want to talk about North Korea's sea-launched ballistic missile just a few days ago. I mean, what do you make of this? Does this give North Korea any kind of an upper hand?
Well, I think it's intended to signal that North Korea is coming at the negotiations from a position of strength. It also serves a continuing testing need for North Korea to try to continue to develop strike and survivability capability by developing a sea-launched nuclear option. I think that the missile is far ahead of the development of the vessel that would carry it. And so that mitigates it somewhat, but still it's really not good timing and really not a propitious atmosphere in which to move forward on negotiations. I think it's right to go ahead and have the negotiations, but it really sends a negative signal from a U.S. point of view.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump brushed off the missiles that North Korea launched this time around. Although this SLBM, or even if it's not an SLBM, even if it was shot from a platform, it would target the U.S. as well. He brushed it off and said that the talks would go on as scheduled. What does that say about Donald Trump's position heading into these talks?
Well, I think he wants to see the talks through. He has invested a lot in the personal relationship with Kim Jongun. I'm worried that it might send the wrong signal in terms of Kim Jongun and the North Koreans believing that President Trump is desperate for some kind of deal. And I don't think that that is actually the case. But I do believe that maybe Special Representative Began could have a more flexible position than what the North Koreans heard in Hanoi. But it really is going to be contingent upon what the North Koreans are willing to do.
Now, do we know what kind of a proposal that the U.S. is going into the talks with? There have been some speculations that the U.S. is going with a less of an all-or-nothing approach, maybe a temporary lifting of a certain kind of sanctions, perhaps. Do we know anything at all?
There have been reports about the possibility of connecting limited sectoral sanctions lifting to steps that North Korea might take on denuclearization. But I think that the underlying issue that has to be addressed in order to get to any kind of implementation of a phased approach is that both sides have to agree on what the objective is. And for the United States, it's very important to know that the pathway of engagement in a negotiation process leads to complete denuclearization, not to incomplete or partial denuclearization, as seems to be the case based on the North Korean position from Hanoi.
Scott, in your view, what could be the best outcome from the Stockholm talks this time around and a worst-case outcome?
Well, it's important for these talks to go more than just 1 day or 1.5 days. One sign of sincerity with regards to engagement in working level talks will be a sustained negotiation process. And one of the keys to understanding how the North Koreans are approaching the process is going to be who they bring to the negotiations. So I imagine that once we see the team on the North Korean side, it'll give a further indication of what can be expected in terms of an outcome from this working level engagement.
All right, we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this one-day preliminary talks and the official talks the following day, and we'll see how this leads to the denuclearization equation in North Korea and the U.S. and South Korea. All right, Scott Snyder, Senior Fellow at Council on Foreign Relations, many thanks to you as always for your insights today.
Thank you so much.